Welcome to the basics of flood insurance rate maps, which we refer to as a FIRM, presented by the Indiana Department of Natural Resources Division of Water. So what is a floodplain? You may hear this referred to as a special flood hazard area covered by the base flood, 1% annual chance flood, regulatory flood, 100-year flood, DNR's best available floodplain layer, or VAPL, or a known flood-prone area. FEMA has discouraged the use of the term 100-year flood for several years, as most are of the mindset, I flooded last year, so I'm good for another 99 years. The 1% annual chance simply means that there's at least a 1% chance of having a flood of that magnitude in any given year. This diagram shown here shows a cross-sectional and aerial views of a floodplain. To develop these maps, engineering staff perform a hydrologic analysis, which is how much water is expected to flow during the base flood. This considers the runoff in the watershed, soil types, natural land cover, slope, pavement, and roofs. Then putting the information into a hydraulic model, an analysis is done to compute how high the water is expected to rise. This takes the shape of the river or stream valley, slope of the channel, type of obstructions which are present, such as bridges, culverts, and vegetation into account. The floodway is determined by telling the computer to squeeze in the floodplain as if it were being filled with dirt or a wall was built. When 1/10 of a foot rise occurs, that determines the boundary between the floodway and fringe. That is also why you can fill in the fringe area without an engineering analysis. FEMA maps and studies are the historic studies shown here on the slide, but we will not discuss and our current products. The digital flood insurance rate maps, or DFIRMs, and the flood insurance study, or FIS. Portions of an older DFIRM are shown here. DFIRMs are county-wide maps that use aerial-based map. Currently, there are only 3 counties in the state that are yet to be updated to a DFIRM. Notice the floodway has diagonal white lines running through it, and the fringe area is covered with blue dots. Introduced in 2014, the shading on the maps was changed to the version shown here. Now we have the floodway delineated with blue and red crosshatching, and the fringe area a solid blue. You also notice that the white lines referred to as gutter lines that are set to separate different flood zones. The flood insurance study, or FIS, provides historical information about the county and documents the engineering methods used to determine the information contained in the document. It also contains data tables, stream profiles, and other information related to the study. The data tables provide specific information on each cross-section of each studied stream. In the FIS, including the floodway width, mean velocity, and 1% annual chance flood elevation. Each cross-section also shows the location in feet or miles above the mouth or confluence with a larger stream. The flood profiles are the data plotted on a grid to facilitate their interpretation. typically 1 inch on each side and divided into 10 squares in both directions. This grid makes taking measurements much easier. The 1 inch grid will vary depending on the stream steepness and other factors. In this example, 1 inch represents 10 feet on the vertical scale and 1,000 feet on the horizontal scale. On flatter streams, this may only be 1 foot on the vertical scale. In this example, we are trying to determine the base flood elevation, or BFE, for a point approximately 170 feet upstream of cross-section C, and have drawn a line vertically to the 1% annual chance flood line. In this slide, we have drawn in the horizontal line to the left and determined that the BFE is about 782.6 feet North American vertical datum by counting the grid boxes down to the 780 line. We can also check our work by referring to the data table and see at cross-section C, the BFE is 781.8, slightly less than the BFE we determined. Since we are using the upstream, this looks good. To determine BFEs, you should use the maps to measure the distance along the stream center line from your point of interest to the nearest cross-section, the flood profiles to plot the point, then the data tables to compare the results. If you find discrepancies between the documents, the flood profiles will govern. However, if documents are discovered or discrepancies are discovered, please report to DNR Division of Water so we can provide this information to FEMA and the maps can be corrected. Here we show a FIRMET, which can be created on the Map Service Center website. This is considered an official map, but only contains a portion of the firm panel. It includes the map panel information and is to scale if printed correctly, generally on a standard 8.5 by 11 standard printer paper. Thank you for watching our video on the basics of flood insurance rate maps.